Welcome back, everyone. The summer always gives me time to listen to more prog rock. Therefore, I wanted to share 6 albums I experienced over 2 videos. I did the math, and that's approximately 3 albums per video. Yeah. This listening experience will start similar to my spring listening experience. It is in order of when I listen to them. Let's begin. Argent's sophomore album, Ring of Hands, started out a bit slow for me. There are some differences from their first album, like shedding their Zombies influence, which is of course keyboard player Rod Argent's previous band. After the third song, Cast Your Spell Uranus, which repeated the word Uranus an awkward amount of times, I was beginning to lose hope. The first 3 songs on the album are pretty straightforward rock. Nothing really stood out. And then the 4th track, Lothlorien, started and everything changed. What is a Lothlorien? Apparently it is the fairest realm of the elves in Middle-earth during the Third Age according to Lord of the Rings? Maybe the album should have been called Lord of the Ring of Hands. Who in the world is writing these jokes? Well, I guess I can't fire you. Lothlorien is the longest and most progressive song on Ring of Hands. Lothlorien really puts Argent's keyboard playing at the forefront, and it is a great song. Definitely the best from the first 2 albums by far, and somehow combines symphonic, psychedelic, classical, and slight fusion in one song. Lothlorien encapsulates everything great about progressive rock. My problem with Argent is not that they aren't progressive enough, because it is not as if Argent set out to be a progressive band. My problem is that their name is Argent, so I want to hear more of Argent the man, who mostly blends in with the rest of Argent the band. He does take off on the song Pleasure, which is also an absolute standout. Argent the man has a distinct style, and I just wanted more of his well-placed dissonance. I do think the second half of Ring of Hands is better than the first half. Three Dog Night thought enough of the song Chained to cover it, which was the second Argent song they covered after Liar from Argent's first album. I do have the Super Audio CD of Ring of Hands that includes In Deep and Nexus. As you can see, I've not listened to it yet. Ring of Hands and Nexus are in stereo, but In Deep is in quadraphonic. For me, Prog is best experienced in multi-channel as it really separates the instruments. Overall, Ring of Hands is a fine listen, although I do have a lot of Argent to get through, so if you love Argent, then stay tuned. Sunburst Finish, and yes, I had to censor the cover, is the third release by Be-Bop Deluxe and is considered to be their finest effort. It is also the last of a trilogy of albums that had guitar-based titles. Axe Victim uses the word axe, which of course is slang for guitar. Futurama was from budget-price guitars from the 50s and 60s, and Sunburst Finish from the style of Gibson Bill Nelson played. The band would officially become a 4-piece with the addition of keyboardist Andrew Clark. So let me put on my Prog investigative journalist hat for a moment. From my sources, I discovered Andrew Clark would disappear into obscurity after Be-Bop Deluxe's last album, Drastic Plastic, in 1978. Let's not forget this revelation I made about the band UK last year. UK stands for United Kingdom, and you've heard it here first. What's that? Clark contributed to David Bowie's Scary Monsters album in 1980? Well, that's going to invalidate everything that I just said. Gonna have to censor that too. Anyway, Andrew Clark was supposed to appear on the previous album Futurama, but had to decline due to other commitments. Between Futurama and Sunburst Finish, since they are the only 2 Be-Bop Deluxe albums I have listened to so far, I like Futurama a little more. Even though Andrew Clark's keyboards adds more depth to the music in Sunburst Finish, I feel like Bill Nelson's guitar playing and writing is not as bombastic on Sunburst Finish, and don't get me wrong, it is a great album. There is a reason why most people prefer it. Overall, Nelson does deliver the goods on guitar, and I hear a little Ollie Halsall in there from Pato, if you know what I'm talking about. However, Bill Nelson is a much cleaner guitarist. Like Futurama, Sunburst Finish starts off very strong with the song Fair Exchange, and comes with 2 mixes, and to my ears, the 2018 mix is an improvement. The most well-known song on the album is Ships in the Night, which is a good song. But after you listen to both mixes and all the bonus material, you end up hearing the song like 5 flippin' times, and you get a little burned out on it. Now, you probably can't go wrong with Be-Bop Deluxe, and I have a ways to go with them too. -2 was a short-lived band from Germany that apparently liked showing off their simple arithmetic skills. This is another SWF Sessions album that was recorded in 1972 but wasn't released until 2010 from the Long Hair label. The first song is an instrumental poetically titled Sticks and Keys because this was a 2-piece band featuring organ player Gunther Kuhlwein and drummer Walter Helbig. Both were music students who ironically came from an 8-piece soul group. They very much reminded me of the German band 69 that I have talked about before, also a 2-piece band. You may know Billy Joel was also in a 2-piece band called Attila in 1970. Their only self-titled release featured loads of overdriven organ and is known as one of the worst albums ever released. I personally disagree with this assessment. I think it's a pretty wild album. Back to -2. Their only recording is overall a satisfying organ-based album. The organ is played with competence with many great passages. Then they started to sing. It is not that their voices were bad, but they weren't overly melodic, and the lyrics were rather lame, possibly because they were trying to translate to English. I'll admit there was a moment during the song, Welcome for You, that I sort of laughed out loud because of the lyrics. But don't get me wrong, the music is totally worth listening to. -2 was another suggestion by fellow prog YouTuber Graham Allen, who could honestly make a career out of forming musical profiles for people and giving them album suggestions. There really was a very small window in which bands like this could have existed. I couldn't imagine this band surviving past 1973, which they didn't, as synthesizers were taking precedence and mainstream prog was getting more demanding and complicated, which ultimately would implode the genre almost completely by the late 70s. Despite the breakup of -2, which would ultimately equal 0, they continued on either performing with other artists or teaching music. You could almost tell they would ultimately break up based on the cover of the album, since they were looking in opposite directions and they were separated by a tree? What?
Write your own line.
I am very pleased to have this album in my collection and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have 3 more albums to get through in part 2, and I promise there will be no Argent and there will be no Be-Bop Deluxe. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Go.
Write your line. Write your line.
You gotta say it so you can understand. You say it one more time.
Write your own lines. Write your own lines. Write your own lines. Is that perfect?
Just go write your own lines.
Write your own lines.